Jackets and hoodies off, put it in your locker.
That's my bill.
Mike, Coldite, AUSL, and all those that have been involved, I deeply appreciate your great commitment to excellence in education. And all the things that I've seen at our high school, what a difference we spoke to the students, we spoke to the new teachers. And it's a completely different attitude about learning here at the high school.
By the fall of 2008, students at Orr Academy were moving in a new direction, a direction many counted on raising educational outcomes in a community where 98% are African American and 84% are low income. The board was to decide on the fate of 18 schools. Chicago Public Schools CEO Arnie Duncan had recommended the schools undergo a process called turnaround.
Have schools where the average student is missing more than 7 weeks of school a year. I think we owe it to ourselves and we owe it to those students to try and do something better for them.
The students at the school would stay together, but every teacher, every administrator, and staff would be replaced.
I believe the only scores that you are looking at are our financial scores.
Community meetings held by the board to discuss the turnarounds, parents, community members, and school activists call the process disruptive.
I ask you to search your hearts because children are being harmed every day. Their motivation is sagging. They are harmed, they are hurt. They feel that the board and Chicago does not care about them.
3 small schools at Orr were on the chopping block.
I went up to the school last Thursday and talked to the teachers, and they said that you were closing down Orr again, and you were going to try and make it into one big school again. And what I feel is that you're actually putting the students in a cycle of failure all over again.
They have gathered over 1,000 signatures against the board's proposal and against their decision. But I guess their voice doesn't matter.
You want us to respect you, but you don't want to respect us. Now, I'm going to read this off because she's going to holler in a minute about get it done. We need to know how USL can turn around Most Vine and Excel, which is already a preparatory college. How they going to turn it around to a preparatory college? And Astor, which is already arts, science, and technology. They're going to turn it back around to that?
I should make the point very clear that, for one, particularly as it relates to this school, I understand better than many about what takes place in that area and in this school.
Tensions between the board and the public increased.
And the senator said that to me, Wanda. Don't you understand that it's not school anymore, it's a business? I say to you, board, we're not going to take it anymore if we got to draft legislation to get each and every one of you out of there and bring in an elected board. That is what we're going to do.
The board's unanimous vote for the turnaround of the 18 schools was guided by a controversial initiative called Renaissance 2010. In 2004, Chicago Mayor Richard M. Daley announced Renaissance 2010, a plan to create 100 new charter, contract, and performance schools, and the closing of 60 low-performing schools.
What I want to say today is based on my research and much other research that's been done, and I want to make 6 points about what Renaissance 2010 is and what it is not. Number one, the plan is not designed to improve the education of the children who presently live and have been living in the Mid-South and other low-income African American and Latino communities.
You're about to pass a budget for a whole lot of money today that has not had proper community input, that I personally think in Renaissance 2010 will cause academic holocaust for thousands of children who are being shifted from school to school to school without their parents' permission. You're dictating this to the parents.
Second, Renaissance 2010 is a plan that blames low-income African American children and their families.
My name is Janice Jones, and I'm standing here before you today in a final attempt to request assistance in the education process of my children. My children are entitled to a quality education in the Chicago public school system. I have exhausted all of my efforts and resources in trying to secure a quality education for them. The education process has been unfair, inadequate, and discriminating against my children. As a parent, I have done all I know to do. My family and I moved into the community thinking our children would be able to attend good neighborhood schools, and now I am told that that is not the case.
Renaissance 2010 is not just a school plan. It's part of a much larger plan for gentrification and for moving out low-income African Americans and some Latinos from prime real estate areas and in fact from the city altogether.
The closing of these 10 Mid-South schools is a thinly disguised regentrification effort. CPS has craftily turned the No Child Left Behind law in on us as an excuse to close our neighborhood schools.
Renaissance 2010 number 4 is a plan to introduce choice, privatization, and the marketplace into public education.
My name is Eugenia Henry. I am a parent. I am also on the LSC. I am one of the concerned parents that is here to find out what is happening to all the money that you're taking out of all the schools that are closing. What's going to happen to all the schools? What's going to happen to all the books?
5, Renaissance 2010 is a plan to disempower communities by eliminating LSCs and disempowering teachers and school support staff by separating them from their unions.
We've already heard that schools in the Mid-South area closed without the consent or approval of their local school councils, which is a violation of Illinois School Code 34, which gives local school councils the power to govern their schools and to have some say. I want to say to you that democratic process does not mean coming to a community and telling a community what you plan to shove down its throat.
6, Renaissance 2010 is a plan developed by business.
Daley's plan arose from a report written by Chicago's business and corporate elite. By the fall of 2004, a controversy had been born. Once the plan began, schools in African American and some Latino neighborhoods were closed and problems arose. Parents and teachers reported overcrowding and an increase in school violence. By 2008, when OR had been slated for a turnaround, it had already undergone 4 prior reform attempts.
Their idea was that smaller schools had less children per classroom, would give a teacher more time, hands on hand, with an individual than it would with a larger school with larger classrooms. And that was supposed to be the great idea, quote unquote, that would make or produce highly quality educated children. And it didn't work out.
Students, parents, and local school council members at Most Fine's preparatory school had their own reasons for the current failure at OR.
What was going on at Most Fine that really drew my attention was the fact that my son was coming home with your homework. He would have homework, but it would be photostat copies of pages to do the homework.
There was one teacher who my daughter had, and she was he just wasn't a very good teacher. Okay. I can't even remember what his name was, but you know, it was only 2 or 3 of them in the class, And they basically just came there and sat.
We tried diligently to change the name of OR because it had had a difficult time in the past, and then it had been connected with things that weren't always very positive. I think that when you get a label on you, it's very difficult to get it off, no matter how talented you are.
Several of Most Vine's LSC members point to a weak administration for the decline of all three schools at OR.
You put them teachers over there, you put them principals over there. I tried to get rid of one, and Mr. Duncan, you told me I didn't have the authority to, but now you want to get rid of them. They were good in June, but they bad as hell in February.
Most Vine is one of the schools who was headed by the principal who Chicago Public Schools put in. She was not contracted by the local school councils, where the Illinois state law clearly is that local schools must have local school councils. And they have three primary responsibilities. That's the SIPA, the budget, and to select their principal. But because the Board of Education had created what they call these small schools, they asked the Illinois legislators to exempt small schools from that.
Critics say the battle over how and who gets to improve schools is what makes a plan like Renaissance 2010 threatening to communities.
You just don't come into anybody's home and demand and state that you're going to make changes without notifying them. You know, that school is ran under the CPS, but it's also made up of this community and the people paying their taxes.
As the Board of Education began the turnaround process at OR, a sense of personal failure invaded the school.
You should have let us know from the get-go when we got in this school that, oh yeah, you know, we don't know. Y'all need to improve you all, you know, test scores, and maybe we'll keep this school open.
So nothing was final until the board ultimately voted, no matter how things were going. And we listened closer to the comments that came in, and we respond to the things that we know make the most sense for our children.
And it was just a farce because everything was already stamped in writing. No matter how much we protest or whatever it was that we said, it was already stamped from the board that this is what they were going to do for the school.
The frustration over neighborhood schools being shut down before communities have a say is being echoed over and over at Board of Education meetings month after month.
And what has the Chicago Public Schools done to increase the participation of low-income and minority residents? Nothing.
And opponents of Renaissance 2010 argue this community input is crucial in improving students' lives.
So if you fail to assist or help these schools or include even the community and the parents in these critical decision making, then you basically are doing a disservice and you're really affecting the quality of life for that community.
Y-intercept is 3.
Y-intercept is 3?
Right.
With a new beginning comes a paint job, a mural, posters to inspire, a mission statement.
It has to be something more.
The community and students at OR had lost their battle with CPS to keep their small schools. Now a new administration and new teachers, mixed with some old, were at the helm to chart a new direction.
Because I told you earlier when I met all of you seniors, I said, wouldn't it be nice when it was just seniors and no freshmen, if all of you guys sitting right here had on caps and gowns and we all were able to walk and graduate.
Based on the northwest side of Chicago, the Academy for Urban School Leadership is part teacher training academy and part school management organization.
What things specifically are we looking for?
The for-profit company already operates several Renaissance 2010 schools. CPS CEO Duncan points to a dramatic increase in student academics at AUSL's first turnaround, Sherman Elementary School, as proof of their abilities.
Our biggest goal is we feel like we can improve almost everything at this school, from freshmen on track to graduation rate, to lowering our dropout rate, or decreasing our misconducts at 4, 5, and 6, if we can get these kids here every day motivated in those seats to learn.
Always take time to note if a teacher spends the most time in front of the classroom, walking back and forth in the classroom, and how much time her back
or his back is to the kids.
Jamie Poole, a first-time principal from Tennessee, is faced with turning around a school of more than 1,200 kids, 6% who are homeless. He is focusing on a community partnership as a key to OR's success.
A lot of parents came to me and said they were extremely happy, shocked though, but extremely happy that, you know, I pushed the success of OR into their hands.
But Renaissance 2010 in general does not have that community engagement piece. I don't even say a community engagement piece. I mean, it's the antithesis of community engagement. But there's this bias that's built into the Ren 10 process against community engagement. It's a bias. I gave that example of the story just as an example of how that bias works. Usually, you know, the people that run Ren 10 generally, and I'm not saying everybody, but generally sees parent involvement as a necessary evil. They begrudgingly say, okay, well, we'll have to, you know, we made mistakes before, but we'll have to open the door up a little bit.
What is the bigger piece the business community is looking at when it comes to urban education? Klonsky calls it the ownership society. This ownership society, as Klonsky writes, is the ownership society in matters of public policy is a narrowly reimagined and redefined public space. Public space is being divided into sectors to be sold off or privately managed. So how will a private management group make strides where the Board of Education hasn't? Daley and Duncan are betting on the idea of autonomy.
So a key autonomy that AUSL has is in relation to the way that they choose to hire who they hire and how they choose to use their staff time, how they choose to outline their curriculum and their supports for kids. And so the autonomy that they have allows them to implement a specific program catered around the needs of the OR school community.
We really strongly criticized Arnie Duncan, for the CEO of Chicago Public Schools, for giving so many schools to AUSL when they hadn't even proven themselves in 1 year. And to call a school governance model or a school management model a model when they hadn't even proven themselves seems to me the most irresponsible kind of decision making.
2/3 of Renaissance 2010 schools will be operated by private companies. This can impact a family on many levels.
What's missing is the fact that you've replaced our neighborhood school, and now my son, my daughter, has to go that much further to get to a neighborhood school because they didn't get accepted into the new school.
We have found that a two-tier system has been created as far as accountability. It seems that schools in this Renaissance 2010 plan are not held to the same standards as the traditional public schools.
Have we done things perfectly at all times? Absolutely not. And so come and talk to us about things that could have been better so we can make it better for you and for the next group as we go through this process, because we're not going to stop. We're going to keep doing, you know, this work because kids deserve great options. And Ren 2010 is meant to symbolically go through the 2010-2011 school year. Our goal is to keep going. Our goal is to offer more and more new school options because every kid in the city deserves multiple opportunities to go to great schools.
There's a lot of differences between, you know, between the Renaissance 2010 schools and regular neighborhood schools that kind of heighten inequality. One thing, the way the teachers are selected. I didn't see a Renaissance 2010, in my view, it wasn't a union busting plan, which is what it turned out to be. You know, because when you create a new school, instead of fixing or changing the existing school, you're not subject to the same rules anymore. You can fire teachers, push them out and hire new teachers without any due process.
Fire all teachers? Well, that sounds like an extreme move to help America's failing schools get back on track, but Chicago's school chief says it's the only way at least in his district.
The vast majority of schools in Chicago Public Schools are getting better each year. And when you have a handful of schools that aren't improving, that are resisting those efforts, I think we have a moral obligation.
Marilyn, you hear what Arnie is saying. The problem here is that there is a resistance to the kind of change that would improve these underperforming schools, and the blame rests with these teachers and the administrators. So they got to go.
Well, no, sir. To be real, we're not blaming anybody. We're not
You're
blaming.
not?
What we're saying is that talent matters, and we need to bring a critical mass of great talent into those neighborhoods where children deserve the best education.
So if you're talking about letting go 200 teachers, you're telling me they shouldn't feel as though they're being blamed for the failings?
No, they're good teachers in every single building. Teachers will be rehired. Great teachers will be rehired there or elsewhere in the system. The marketplace plays. Great teachers will be rehired. Teachers that aren't as good won't. I think that's healthy for the children.
Marilyn, I visited some of the teachers, and they were dedicated, and you were breaking up teams. These are teachers who are not resistant to change. They're resistant to creating instability in an already unstable neighborhood.
Arnie, you're not going to get this. You know, this is a bold proposal, but you know this is never going to really fly. Don't you know that in your heart? So you made the proposal. Don't you think it's time to sort of bring both sides together and really work on solutions?
I couldn't disagree with you.
You really think you're going to get this?
Talent matters. We've been turning around underperforming schools for years. The schools get dramatically better. We are absolutely committed to challenging the status quo and doing something dramatically better for children.
Marilyn, you want in on this?
Yes, but some of the schools for which they're sending students are only marginally better. So how is that improving schools?
At the end of the day, if the teachers are an issue here, isn't it better to move them out, to get them to reapply for their jobs? Let's get them some additional training and perhaps find a better fit for them.
Absolutely, but what you're saying, if these teachers are this awful, why are you rehiring somebody that's awful?
We have one chance to give our children a great education. When we fail to do that, public school systems perpetuate poverty and perpetuate social failure.
If the y-intercept is 3, we're up here, right?
The Chicago Teachers Union has battled with the Board of Education since 2004 about the effect Renaissance 2010 will have on teachers and students.
You're not even looking at the growth and development of our children at this age. We're trying to create stability while the board constantly has instability by moving students around. What I'm saying to all of you, you have to get public input. The teachers know what students need. I've been a veteran teacher in the system for over 30 years, and when you make these drastic situations, in a lot of our neighborhoods, there's a lot of instability in the home. We're saying, please promote stability in our schools.
As you talk about what has happened, we look at what's occurred and we do things better. We understand what the effect is and we change things from there. So don't suggest that we don't do anything different or we don't hear, we don't understand. I did say that nothing is a fait accompli because this board is an engaged, involved board that will ask questions, that will question our staff, that will question our people, and we will come to the decisions that we think are appropriate.
That's our major concern, is that they have not considered the impact on these students. We've had rallies and marches and protests and petitions and all types of things just to try and get them to slow down. You know, slow down and see what's happening. Give it a little time and see if it works. Why make all these changes if you don't know that it's going to really work?
What's going on here at Orr High School is extraordinary. We have never before taken high schools like Orr on the west side, Harper on the south side, moved all the adults out, kept all the children, and come back with much better teams.
We firmly believe that you do not have to close a school down to change an educational program. So we have seen a lack of transparency and also a lack of accountability. It seems that schools in this Renaissance 2010 plan are not held to the same standards as the traditional public schools. As you can see, with the Academy of Communications and Technology Charter School, only 13.7% of their students are students from that neighborhood. So some children were pushed out of their school to go to another school, and somebody else's neighborhood students are there. The teachers are very concerned. They can feel the impact that this has on their students too.
How to achieve that?
The higher the poverty level, the less successful the school has been so far. And I think when you add the mobility to that factor, that it becomes even a more serious problem for these students. Their self-esteem suffers when they're told your school is going to be closed because you're not good enough, you're not doing good enough. And in many cases, even with these turnaround schools, they force the entire faculty, the children stay in the building, but the entire faculty and staff is gone. Even the lunchroom ladies, okay? The school nurse, everybody has to be replaced.
At the end of the school year, the teachers came to me, oh, here's some email, because I'm a senior and I needed college recommendations. And I couldn't get them because I can't connect with a new teacher. But those old teachers gave me the email and their contact number, so I will be able to communicate with them to advance my education.
I had a lot of teachers that actually were pushing me on to become something better. They just kept me on track with everything that I did. And I could talk to them with anything that I had any problem with. It was basically like my second family.
When you get a student who's been moved, 2 years they're in this building and then they close it, then they push them somewhere else and they're in another building. Every time a student is moved, they lose 4 to 6 months in the learning process, and that takes its toll. We definitely agree that it is a union busting technique. As our President Stewart always says, we have no vested interest in bad teachers.
Thank all those that have been involved here in Orr High School. It is, to me, it's like a whole new beginning. It is amazing, the attitude, and most importantly, the expectations are raised. These kids are going to go someplace. It's not going to be a school of failure, of a community of failure.
With 75 schools having been created, it seems as if Daley's goal will be reached. If Orr thrives under Renaissance 2010, this vision may usher in a new form of education reform.
When Renaissance 2010 was first announced, I was all for it. I thought, my goodness, this is what we've been dreaming about. You know, here's a chance to create 100 new small schools. For someone like me, that's my life's dream, is to do something like that. But the next thing I knew, they were perverting that idea. To me, the idea of creating new schools is to organize teachers and parents and people in the community and develop and push resources to them. We've got to create environments for all kids, not just for the elite kids, not just for the middle class kids. We've got to create environments for all the kids where personalization can take place, where teachers can work together in collaborative teams and get to stay together with their kids long enough to really get to know them well. Live and work in the communities that they teach. Know what happens to their students outside of school as well as in school, things like that.
Chicago is evolving, and I think we're going through a transition. We still are graduating students that can't perform, you know, and we're gonna be suffering the consequences of that. REN 2010, I think, is going to continue to move forward. From what I've heard, actually, I sat on my first CTAC this past couple of months, 6 months, and Arnie is committed to continuing to open up these options as he sees it.
Everything is going on right now around Renaissance 2010. There's a plan for a bigger day. And so this has nothing to do and will never have anything to do with educating the children in that community. This is a bigger plan and what they're going to look for down the line. Mayor Daley, exactly what you just talked about, has been the mayor has been the principal for the day for 10 years. You think that if a mayor has been a principal of the day for 10 years, that school would not perform by now? Please, let's not be confused about it.
By the grace of God, I was able to see another day. I don't want to hear nobody talk about last year at Most Vine, at Stella Astra. It is this year at Orr High School. It's just a new leadership here. It's a new attitude here.
They got 5 years to turn this school around, successful. If they don't, they lose their contract.
So what do you predict?
A year. People that I did not want, people that I did not want to come in there, that's in there and got 5 years to turn it around. And I believe it can be done in a year.
With OR, it wasn't working. It wasn't working for the kids, but then again, I'll say, I don't think the leadership was that strong. I don't believe that the leadership was there to make it work. With this new school, the only thing that I have is wishful and hopeful that this school does work for whatever reason that they did decide to turn it around and do what they're doing. I just hope that it does work and that it's a school that stays open for all kids and not be selective.
So many times you look at the things that really help schools get off the ground. It's not just about the instruction and instructional leadership. It's not about the professional capacity of the teachers. Not even necessarily about the learning climate within the building. But if you don't have that integral piece, which is family and community involvement, it all goes down the drain.
This work, let me tell you, is tough, tough work. When we talk about turning around schools, communities get very upset, and we have to work in that. Community gets angry, they don't really understand it. Our students have one chance at education. So if we wait 5 years, we wait 8 years, we lose another generation, and we can't afford to do that.
What are they bringing to the kids?
What they're giving to kids is confidence and character. They're not takers, they're going to be givers. They're going to give to their fellow students their knowledge. I can just feel it. They're going to give to 7th and 8th graders. They're going to give back to their family. This is not, we're not forming a school system to take everything. We're forming young men and women that can give back into the community. That's what we really want to be. There's a lot of assistants out here. You've seen Bruce and Mike and Pritzkers and all that, fine. But the attitude is they're going to be somebody in life. That's the attitude. They're going to go someplace in life.